Hi, welcome. I'm Elizabeth from Elizabeth's Healing Path, and this video is for my Swedish massage students. It is all about body mechanics and self-care during session. So, I know it's backwards. It's totally backwards. The book I'm going to be lecturing from, and I've got notes and stuff in this, is Body Mechanics for the Manual Therapist, a functional approach to self-care. So if you don't have to get this book. I'm going to bring this book in the class so that it's there if you want to breeze through it and make copies and things like that. The reason I got this book is so very early in my career, I started getting hand issues. So I would say that's the kind of like the first injury. Now, initially, the hand issues were just kind of soreness. Just like working out, you need to build up strength in your hands, and especially if you like jump into a career that makes you massage a lot of people at once instead of slowly building up your strength over time. Like I also ride my bike, and I don't just get on my bike and do 100 miles. I start at like 20, and every week I add 5 miles. So it's the same thing with doing massage. You want to start slow, but you start in school. And luckily, most places you're not busy right off the bat. But I remember there were days in my early career where I had to do 8 massages in one day. I was exhausted. So part of your self-care is kind of knowing your limit, and I know some people can do more, but the average massage therapist can stay, like the therapists who stay in the field longest, the ones who don't burn out at 10 years, right? They say one of the things that help them is only doing 3 to 4 massages a day. Now that doesn't, I do mostly 3. I don't go above 3 very often. Every once in a while there's a 5, and if that happens, I make sure I have an extra day off. And I do 3 because I do a lot of 75 and 90-minute sessions. It's pretty rare to do an hour. And for my new clients to do 45 minutes, so it also depends on that. So whether or not I may do 4 massages if I'm doing 45-minute sessions and hour sessions. But if I'm doing 75 and 90-minute sessions, then it's generally around 3. So that's one thing that can help you, is not overextending yourself. The other thing is good self-care. So I've marked some pages that I'm gonna, look over. Okay, so the first step of self-care in session is body awareness. And I'd like to point out that I'm actually sitting really badly right now. You can't tell because it's below the belt, but I will get there because this is totally one of the reasons. So very early in my career, I noticed I had hand issues. Generally now my hands are fine, and I have low back issues, and one of them is this bad seating posture I'm in right now. So first thing is body awareness. Being aware that you're doing something that's irritating your body is the first step. Having what I've heard before being called a felt sense. We often numb out in our body and we don't notice things. You really want to have a very good awareness to, oh, my body doesn't like doing that. Or the book may say you should do something and you're like, that really doesn't work well for my body. So first having this body awareness, and then being aware in how you move. Being aware in how you stand when you're doing massages, how you lift, being aware of how you walk, even if it's not in massage room. So being aware how you walk, being aware how you sit. Just having these, being aware of these habits that you have, and then noticing that through body awareness, this is a habit I have, and what can I do to get out of that? Or this is a habit I have, and hey, that's a good habit. That's a good thing. I just realized I forgot my mic. Oh, hopefully this is okay. I forgot my mic. Okay, so there's body awareness where you, wait a second, there's no mic on me. Okay, and then there's ease versus effort. Is there something you're doing that's very easy to do, or is there something that's like exhausting you? Like if you do it too much, you're just like, I'm just exhausted by the end of the day. I would say, because very often people say, wow, how can you do this all day? How are you so strong? And then I usually say that's the massage therapy steroids I take. which it's not. I find that I get more mentally exhausted by the end of the day by constantly evaluating postural things. Sometimes you can have a client that's an energy drain. Excuse me. I forgot to swallow. Okay. And then just having awareness in your body. So all of those are the first steps to self-care. Okay. The next step is to pay attention to the things outside of you. Now, I wish I would have known this before I bought my table, but there's two different table things here, right? I have a table that has something through the center, but they also have something, and they call it like a Reiki table end, but it doesn't make any sense why it's called that. So because I do not have that, and I've got something in the center right here, I cannot sit with my legs under my table. I actually plan on getting a new one because this is becoming a real problem. So because I cannot put my legs under the table and get close enough like that I need to do some neck and shoulder things, what I do is I splay my legs out wide, like this, to the sides of the table, and that's actually terrible body mechanics. So one thing you want to be aware of is, does your table meet the needs for what you do? Now, I had this table since I graduated, so I've had it for a very long time. I wish they could sell a kit that could just change the end thing. I don't even know how much this adds to the stability. I know that it's a pain in my butt. What if I put my legs through here? I guess. Okay, I'll sit like this for the rest of the thing. So you want to also make sure your table meets your needs. You also make sure it's the right height. Before we talked about when you're standing, not when you're sitting, but when you're standing, your fist should be here or here. Some people like a lower table. So anywhere from here to here on your hand. So sometimes so I like it here at my knuckles, but it could also be here, or it could be at your wrist. So I know some people who like a low table, play around with it. I would love a table that raised and lowered for the benefit that sometimes you just need it to be a different height. And so instead of having to squat down really low or jack up your shoulders, you can just kind of lower the table a little bit. So that's one of my goals for this year. I would like to get a table that goes up and down so I can save my back a little bit. What else? The table, so make sure your table's at a good height. The table will be too high, your shoulders and upper body will be strained. If it's too low, your low back will suffer. And also you want your chair and stool to be the right height. Now I have a chair over there. I've got short legs. I'm an average height, I'm 5'4", but I've got really short legs. So that chair over there where my clients put their stuff, I actually plan on shortening all my chairs in the house because they're just so uncomfortable for me because my toes touch, but my heels do not touch the ground. So when you have a stool, you want to make sure, I'm going to push this way because this guy's arteries are blocking it. You want to make sure that your knee and your hip are at right angles, right? So this is how you want to be sitting in your stool. So if it's like this, you'll be uncomfortable because it's usually going to be like this. Or you have to sit on the edge. So you can see how the hip is not quite where it needs to be. And then what usually happens, what I find, is then I lift up my hips and try to put my foot on the thing behind it, which is not so good. Or if it's too low and your hips up like that. I spent years looking for the perfect stool. You want to see my perfect stool? I found it at Home Goods, and I've never found one since. But this stool, not only is it pretty, is the perfect height. So I literally sat on the stool. Now, if you work at a place where more than one massage therapist works, then you might want to have an adjustable stool. Sometimes the adjustable ones don't go down low enough, though. So keep that in mind when you're picking your stool. You also want to have enough space. So I say you should be able to walk around your table with your hips like this. So you shouldn't have to scoot around like this because there's a wall here. I actually worked at a place like that. It was very hard to maneuver around the table, like to have it scoot around it. So you want enough space around the table. You want good lighting. You want it to be dim, or at least not over. I have the overhead lights on right now, but I shut those off. So you have lights around the room, but generally nothing shining in the client's face. But you don't want it so dark that you have eye strain. So I generally have a lot of lighting. I have a salt rock. I have like candles in every corner, like other things that light up the room. Besides the overhead lighting, but you want to be able to see. And plus I have a window, so it's really only at night that I have to worry about that. So rugs, I have rugs around. Cords you have to watch out for. I like to put rugs on top of cords so I don't trip on cords. So you want to keep that. You want to know if your clothing, I'm sitting bad again, if your clothing is a distraction. So you're going to need full movement, right? So there's pants I've had that I'm like, this is a little tight on me, and it wasn't tight on me 6 months ago, but it's a little tight on me now. So if your pants are too tight, then you're going to have trouble getting into a good position to make you comfortable. I found that scrub pants didn't have enough elastic in it for me. Like I said before, yoga pants, I would sometimes get comments, although if I do have all females, I will throw them on still. I've actually started wearing more long skirts because I find that there's enough movement, yet still looks professional. So you want to make sure your shirts and your clothes are not distracting to you. It's funny because it says, if you choose to wear shoes, you think I'm kidding that it's very common for massage therapists to not wear shoes. So you want to make sure that they're comfortable. Hair should not be out of control, it says. Hair should not be out of control. So I want to point out, so I have, this is actually my hair, this is my hair short. It's gone down here before. And there's been times when even in a braid, it will hit the client. So I would start bunning it. Right now it's fine with a braid, it's not that long. So you want to, for one thing, make sure your hair is never, ever, ever going to touch the client. So if you have short hair, you can leave it loose. That's absolutely fine. You don't want it to get in your face. You don't want to have to like distract, have to wipe it, away throughout your session. So long as that's fine. Yeah, so you want to make, it's a hygiene thing too. You don't want hair to fall out. Sometimes there'll be like, hair to fall on the client, stuff like that. So you want to, it should be under control and never touch the client. And so then also nails, they can affect your body mechanics. They can affect how you work. If your nails are too long, it will encourage like a hyper extension of these fingertips because you're trying to avoid, and clients still can kind of feel them. Again, you want to do this to make sure, but even this is sometimes too short or too long, but you also don't want to do too short. Keep in mind, so the anatomy of your nail is there's actually like a skin that attaches to your nail. If you cut them too short and you break that skin, you've now created a cut, which is opening you up to getting an infection or picking up something from the client, things like that. So you never want to cut it so short. You want to see just a tiny sliver of white. If you don't, no white is not good. That generally means you've gone too short, and I have seen people do that. And what happens is over time, this is called the free edge. Nail tech history, this is called the free edge. Over time, you'll see their free edge, which is the pink part, go lower and lower and lower and lower, and that's really bad for your health of your hands. And these hands you have to take care of, so don't mess them up that way. Okay, what do we have next? Okay, so then they talk about the importance of self-care, including warming up and resting in the middle of your day. I can't tell you how much it would drive me nuts when someone would take away my break to throw in a massage. I go, no, I needed that break. I'm still going to take it. That person's going to be taken late, and now you're going to make it so the rest of my day everyone's going to be late. I need a rest. I need to eat. They would take it so I wouldn't have time to eat lunch. So make sure you take it's not going to be like set at the same time every day. That's not as important. is the fact that around the mid part of your day, so very frequently I would have 2 clients, an hour break, and then another 2 clients at the end of my day. So that's very, very normal for me. It's not just a time to eat, it's a time to rest. And as massage therapists, we actually burn quite a few calories, and then allowing yourself a winding down period at the end of your day. Now, one of the things I loved is when I bike commuted, because I also think it's important, not just a warming up, but a centering of yourself before you start to take clients, leaving anything personal at the door. So coming early is a great opportunity to do that. But also I found when I bike commuted, it would always kind of de-stress me both ways, and it would always just kind of really calm me down. Also, proper hydration is important. I always say know your weaknesses. Hydration is totally one of my weaknesses. I'm going to go drink a glass of water right now. Hydration is important, and right now as I'm lecturing this, we're in COVID, and I didn't realize how often I'll keep a bottle in the room and take just occasional swigs, until the fact that now I'm wearing a mask and I can't take it off to do that. So hydration is very important throughout your day. So now my thing is I keep while the client is changing, I usually try to get in some fluids in me before I start the session, and then after the session to finish it off. You also need a good breathing pattern. Now, I'm not going to teach you about breathing. That's part of your self-care project, is to look into different breathing. I will say pay attention to if you're breathing just with your chest and not with the lower diaphragm, to make sure you're belly breathing. So that's one little clue. But learn how to breathe, and we tend to hold our breath when we're stressed, but taking deep breaths actually helps relax our nervous system. So that even helps us, it helps us help our clients. And then once you learn about breathing, then that's actually something I've taught clients as well. I'll notice they're just chest breathing, and belly breathing is much more relaxing. Also, finding your rhythm and pace during sessions, whether it's a little bit faster or a little bit slower. Having a nice steady rhythm is helpful in good body mechanics. I want to make sure I hit everything. Okay, so this is a big one. This chapter is about the hand, and if you do nothing else, take a peek at the hand chapter. So my hand, I had to kinesio tape myself every weekend for a while, because I couldn't work with the kinesio tape on. So as soon as I finished work on Saturday, kinesio tape would go on, and it would stay on until my first client. Matter of fact, I broke this finger when I was little, and now it has arthritis in it. And now that it's really cold today, I can feel it. And I used to have to kinesio tape this finger as well. I actually might. Do I want to do that today? I might do that, because just their arthritis is throbbing a little bit. So a lot of times keeping that awareness of it, the areas you've had injury of are more likely to, for example, create arthritis over time. This was when I was 10 or something. So I'm always very cautious of protecting it. So one thing to protect your hands, this is what someone once said, those are money makers. You want to be using your entire body. It's not just about hand strength. And I will say also doing exercises. Do I have any in here? Like ball grips, and rock climbers have a lot of exercise tools. I just saw a tool I'm kind of interested in, where it's like a little strap thing, and the tension is here, and so you're strengthening your extensors, I believe. Yeah. And so that's very interesting to me, but because normally it's all about gripping, and so to do the other side is kind of neat. So anyway, to start that now, there was also one where I would roll balls in my hands, those little weighted balls. There's 2 of them. That felt good as well. So in the beginning of my field, I did a lot of strengthening things, because you aren't used to using your hands. Now I haven't really felt the need to do that. Also, this is where all the muscles are for your hand, and they get your forearms will get very, very tight. They actually sell things now for like rolling on them, but making sure you're getting your regular sessions, have them concentrate on your hands and your forearms so you're taking good care of it. So you want to support the wrist. So one thing that you're going to do is when you're compressing, right, you're compressing with this hand. Instead of only using this hand, use the other hand as a supportive. So for one thing, supporting the hand. Again, using your whole body, not just the hands. So when you flow with the whole body instead of just, can you see the difference of me going in like this versus just like that? You want to also, so when it comes, now when we say this is ideal body mechanics, there are going to be times in movements and things we do and muscles you're trying to get to where there's just really no good position. So you can't do it. So that's okay. We just don't want you to be in the habit of always doing it. So in this class, I'm actually going to be probably criticizing your body mechanics more than I am your technique, because you already got the technique down in 101. You guys rocked it. So with your hand, you want to be careful of your wrist going this way or being this way. So, for example, it being this way and you gliding with someone, or this way could happen too. I feel like I'm more likely to do this one. And then being, hyperflexed or hyperextended is never good. And I've even noticed that carries over to yoga. Like, I don't like it when you're in position where your wrists are like this. I find it very uncomfortable. I may do this, or like if I do plank, I'm down on my forearms. Just to protect your wrists. So pay attention to how you do other things. I had to stop knitting because of massage. Cramped up my hands too much. Also know that you don't just use, this part is a really powerful part of your hands. So we tend to want to use that more often, but you also have this part, you have the whole hand, you have the fingertips, so you can be using the fingertips more like the here, or you could be using here, or the whole hand pressure. So know that you have those 4 different options, so you're not constantly using the same one. The fingertips aren't going to go as deep. Yeah, I mean, like the elbow is the deepest, so if you think about it, like lightest to deepest. So lightest, a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper. A fist is really deep, forearms really deep, elbows really deep. So you don't always have to use the same things, and that helps kind of break it up. Also, the fingers are really good for palpation, for gripping. And again, when you're doing your petrissage, you're gripping with your whole hand, not just your fingertips. So the thumb has a lot of fun things it can do. It's smaller size, makes it stronger and more stable. But when you're using the thumb, you want to make sure that you stay in alignment. Don't like put it all the way out here and push in, right? I mean, the person would be here. You want to stay in alignment. I personally would rather use a stone. This one works, although it's not one of my big ones. I stopped using my thumb so much because my thumb would get tired. If you can see, this has a nice little trigger point, and I can hold on to this and get a good grip and use this to go in. You can see this nice alignment, and it stretch out my round points there. It has a nice alignment for me to go into it without injuring myself. And clients think they're getting like a fun little treat, and hot stone massage usually costs more. But I always leave good trigger point or thumb stones in my roaster. So if I'm using it, the heat will help penetrate into their body and relax muscular tissues, and also save your hands. So I personally like that. So again, the fist is an effective tool for weight bearing. You can, even do other techniques as well with your fist. So in this class, it's not just about the basic techniques. I want you to play around with fists and forearms, and elbows is really deep. Don't just throw that down on anyone. So you have the fist, you have knuckles, and when you do fist, you want to make sure your thumb doesn't go in. It's got to stay out. Okay, don't do this. So or you can even do knuckles, this. And then the ulnar side of the hand is another tool that you can use, especially like that friction is really nice with the ulnar side of hand. The forearm is an excellent tool for you can do light tissue, like light pressure, but also deep pressure. Now, this is it's deep, and you never want to be over a bony, any attachment points, any surface level bones, because it will hurt the client, and you don't want them to jump. Now, technically, if you go learn some more modalities, and I actually think in modalities she goes over this, you can use the feet, the knee, the lower leg. And when I was doing, I did Ashiatsu for a while, and then I was using those things. So that's another way to kind of save your hands. But then I kind of narrowed my practice in on cupping and myofascial release and stopped doing it. So standing, I'm going to use the guy. So standing is a basic function, right? So if you're watching this and you can stand, go ahead and stand now. And the reason I like these anatomical skeletons versus the Halloween ones, I was like, oh, that's not right. Why is the spine straight there? So the spine wasn't straight, and I didn't like how inaccurate this one. And this guy, his cervical spine and thoracic could have a little bit more. Like I think there should be a little bit more here and a little bit more of a banana curve up there. Look, he's casual. He's like, whatever. Okay, so there's points on the feet you want to stand on. You want it kind of dead center of the foot, and then you kind of want it on the bone right here beneath your big toe and your little toe. Now, pay attention while you're standing if you lean more a little bit on the in or outer. So I sprained an ankle, and so I tend to have a bad standing. I tend to roll my ankles a little bit. So having that stability of having it touch on those 3 points is called a tripod. So paying attention to that, not locking out your knees like Mr. Skeleton's doing. I have a tendency to lock out my knees. So you want to not lock out the knees. So a lot of times when people stand up straight, what they do is they lose the arch in your back. If you're losing the arch in your back, you're not standing up straight. So you want it to be loose. So you don't want to shove your shoulders back and tuck in your tummy. So you want to still have the arch here and then the arch in your neck. Do not lose those. But you also want your ear and your shoulder and your hip to kind of line up, and the weight to be balanced over your feet. So paying attention to how of that balanced posture. So again, when you're standing, and you can kind of do both ways to notice how it is. So standing in a normal position, ear, shoulder, hip. So I just locked on my knees because I have hyperextended knees. So doing this and not pushing out your rolling, this is actually the reason I'm having back issues. I noticed I was anteriorly rotating my pelvis when I was doing things. So you want to kind of keep a tight core. Doing things like planks and stuff is helpful for keeping that strong core. And you don't want to lose the arch of your back by going like this. That's not standing up straight. But you also don't want to do this. Okay, so now sitting. It's the same concept. We already talked about picking a good stool. So you want your feet, your ankles, your knees, and your hips to all be at this 90-degree angle. Now you don't want to have your legs together, no matter what your mom told you. That definitely messes up your hips. I mean, just feel how, if you have a skeleton with you, feel how uncomfortable that is on his hip. And you also don't want it really wide, and that can happen on tables like mine, which is how I usually sit, because you want to get close enough to the person, but I have this thing here that stops me from doing it. So you want your knees to be hip distance apart. And it's the same concept. People always sit up straight and they lose their arch of their low back. You want to sit comfortably. You do not want to be on your tailbone. Yeah. So you don't want to be on your coccyx or tailbone at any point there. You want to be putting your weight here on the ischial tuberosity, not here. I mean, you would have to really kind of push. Okay, anyway, so you're resting here, and you can see that there's a little bit of a rock here. And so you want to be able to maintain the arch of the low back without overarching it. And I find that just playing around with tilting your pelvis back and forth to find that comfortableness, like tilting forward too much, it starts to squish the low back and then you don't want to rotate it back, which makes it so you lose that low back arch. And the same thing with your shoulders. You don't need to push them back. You want to be comfortable. You want your ears, your shoulders, and your hips to still line up. So you can see, like, you don't want this. You don't want this. And I actually sit a lot. Because instead of like popping a really low squat for a long time, I would rather sit. So if I need to be at this height, or even a little bit, I'll just sit. So I have 2 stools around my table. Okay, now bending. So often in the skeleton can't even do it because his vertebrae have been fused. But so when it comes to bending, which we do a lot, you want a little bit of you don't want to bend with your low back, your mid back, or your neck. So in this class, you're going to be watching what you're doing a lot because you're learning and you're looking down. Know that normally when you're massaging, you don't need to constantly be looking at the client. You set them up, you look at postural things, and then you make your neck straight. So I can be having my neck straight. I don't have to be doing this to looking down. My neck can be straight. So as you're learning, you're going to be looking down more, but looking down puts a lot, this 12-pound head, 10-pound head, whatever it is, puts a lot of strain on the neck to be looking down like that. So you're standing, and now when you want to bend, you don't want to bend with your low back, your mid back, or your neck. You're bending with your hips because this is your strongest area of a bend. So you bend your knees a little bit. You still want to kind of get your hips over it, and you bend. And I would actually say, if you're bending a lot, I would say practice wall sits. Look up wall sits if you don't know what they are. Wall sits, and like I said, planks are really good to help. Even if you don't exercise, doing those 2 things can help support you as keeping good posture as a massage therapist. And like I said, even more stuff like strength training and stuff like that can also help you. So he's rotating out right now. Okay, so having your knees again, and you can have them, they don't have, one foot can be in front of the other. One can be like a 45-degree out, and one can be in front, and you have more of like a stance like this. I find this to be very comfortable. And that's actually also a really good stance for the face rest, because now I can get the face rest is here, the client's head is here. I can get this front foot in really close, that back one's back at a 45-degree supporting me, and now I have access here. And again, your bend is, I just squat it down, and then I can lean forward if I'm ready to work instead of this. So keep your spine straight, keep the arches in your neck and your low back, you know. And also you want to make sure you're counterbalancing. Think balancing on like a skateboard or surfboard. They bend their knees, they bend forward a little bit from the hip, but they still maintain balance. Only 2 more. So this one is pushing and pulling. Now this is really important because when I start doing myofascial release, we do a lot of traction, and the legs sometimes are really heavy. If someone's got a lot of fascia restrictions, it almost feels like they're fighting you. So when lifting a leg or an arm, you want to get as close as possible. I started changing my shirt after every session because to get as close as possible, usually they're touching me, like my stomach area. So you face the weight. So the head's here, you're going to face it. You're not going to do this way, which wouldn't be very common, but if you're doing the leg, you might be facing the person's head instead of facing the leg directly. You want to lift with your legs, not with your arms. We know that. And then And then once you lift it, you can start moving it. Again, paying attention to how your body feels when you're doing this. And so hey, my guy has a heart. I didn't even notice that. Which is also a muscle. Okay, so for example, if I have leg traction here, I usually sit and just lean back while still maintaining good back support. And I'm just still stable with my legs here, and then I just lean back. I'm not like jamming back with my arms. I'm just tractioning. Now, when you're doing this, at no point should you be using the client to maintain your balance. I actually remember hearing a teacher tell me this in school. She said she was doing a cervical traction with the tool. The client was uncomfortable, moved a little bit. She went flying. So that should never happen, because you should never be relying on the client's body to keep you stable. So if I'm tractioning and for some reason I lose my grip, I should be able to stay here. Same thing. I'm balanced. I let go. I can stay in this position. Same thing with forward. If you're gripping over a client, lift up your hands to make sure you're stable, because if you're using the client to maintain yourself, then you're losing your body mechanics stability, and you're losing this integrity, and it's not good body mechanics. Also ask for help. If you need help having a client lift their legs to put under a bolster, whatever it may be, don't hesitate to ask. Okay, so that is, wait, which one did I just do? Lifting. That was lifting. So that's, for now that you've lifted, we're talking about pulling. I got ahead of myself. So that's, I already did pushing and pulling. That's just lifting the leg. So for example, facing the leg and then lifting it, and then you can then shift. Pretend I'm standing. Now you can then shift. Now you're going this way, and you can do a stretch here. Look at my little guy getting a stretch. You can do a stretch here, or you can bring their leg out to the side, some range of motion, things like that. But lifting with your legs. And then pushing, again, when you push, you want to make sure that you're counterbalancing yourself so that you are stable. Now, there's a lot of power that can come from pushing with your body weight. Now, this is where all the power comes from. It's not from your hands. That's why people are always surprised when a woman can give them as much power and strength as they want in a session, because it's not about hand strength. It's about using your body weight. So if you want deep pressure, squat down into it, right? Just put pressure here and then squat. The lower you go, I mean, it also depends on, either way, it's a lot of weight. Even if someone's as little as 100 pounds, pushing down, just pressing into them is enough. So just pressing into something is a lot of weight. Imagine that you can get a scale and just sink into a scale and see how much the weight goes up. Or if you're pushing, that strength is coming from the back leg and pushing out through your hands. So it's a lot of your whole body weight. It's not just the what you can accomplish with your hands, but it's what you're able to accomplish with your whole body. So work smarter, not harder. By the way, one thing you can try in class, if you're having trouble with the wrist thing, which I think is going to be a first injury if you do get one, is when you're practicing, you could get like a brace that stops your wrist from moving, put on a glove, practice massaging people with that, just to get used to stabilizing your wrists. Also, like I said, get little things to exercise your hands. Start it now. They're also a great stress reliever. But I think that is all in body mechanics. But if you want to know more, if you feel like you're starting to lean into injury, check out this book. Again, Biomechanics for Manual Therapists. It actually says we're one of the top 10 careers who get injured. Like people don't, I mean, I was dating a guy who's a painter, and he thought he had really hard physical work and was shocked when I injured my low back doing massages. because my pelvis kept tilting forward because I didn't have a strong enough core. And so he was kind of shocked by that. I'm like, no, we're the top 10. I know it's like, I get so many truck drivers. There's so many, they have so many injuries. I would say even more than police and fire. But police, firemen, there's a bunch of other ones, and manual therapists, we're in the top 10 people who get injured at work. So you have to take care of yourself. I want you to be in this field for a while. I want you to be able to help people for a while. Especially because I feel like the older you get, you just get better. You'll get better and better. You're already awesome, but you're going to get better and better and better. Okay, thanks for watching about body mechanics, and I'll see you in the next module.